Well, a conservative lawyer who worked for former President Trump is withholding more than 3,200 documents from the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. John Eastman says his email records are covered under attorney-client privilege. A judge who was reviewing that argument forced Eastman to turn over 101 emails last month. Well, now a new court filing is giving us insight into how many documents are still under review. Scott McFarland is standing by for us to talk more about this story. Hi there, Scott. I know you've been covering every twist and turn. So what do we know about the content of these documents and Eastman's argument for withholding them?
Increasingly, Elaine, John Eastman is becoming a pivotal figure, if not the pivotal figure in the investigation by the House January 6th Select Committee. You'll recall Eastman was the architect of that memo to give the then Vice President Mike Pence some type of strategy or method for overturning the Electoral College count on January 6, 2021. The committee has wanted to get its hands on some of Eastman's emails, thousands of them. Eastman works for a university on the West Coast, at least he did at the time, so getting those emails has been fraught with legal challenges. When they made their most recent motion in court to get the Eastman memos, the House January 6th Select Committee said something particularly provocative. They said it is likely that former President Trump and John Eastman were part of some type of conspiracy, if not a criminal conspiracy, and that's why those emails needed to be handed over. They're trying to get more emails from Eastman, trying to get deeper into whatever records he has, but you have to keep an eye on this man. The records he has seem to be of particular importance to the House January 6th Select Committee. They said demonstrative things to get the first batch. And this is a committee, Elaine, that's already had hundreds of interviews and already secured tens of thousands of documents, and they are showing they want this man's emails in a big way.
So in addition, Kimberly Guilfoyle also had a closed-door meeting with the House Select Committee, but it isn't her first time doing so. So, Scott, what more do we know about the meeting this week?
Kimberly Guilfoyle showed up once before, but there was a disagreement, an argument, in fact, over ground rules. So she went back and came back for a second time, and that happened this week. It was a lengthy appearance in the House January 6th Select Committee's offices on the U.S. House side of Capitol Hill. We don't have a readout of what was said between the investigative staff and Ms. Guilfoyle, but we do know, without much ambiguity, that the House January 6th Select Committee is particularly interested in people who had former President Trump's ear in the days before January 6th and the morning of January 6th, people who may have heard what he said and may have been advising him. And we know Kimberly Guilfoyle was at that White House Ellipse event the morning of January 6th. So she had some proximity to the former president and key stakeholders. She has always been a person in which the January 6th committee has had interest. That being said, she's also a uniquely public figure, a former cable news fixture, a very vocal supporter of the former president. So we'll see eventually what piece of the puzzle they've secured by talking to Kim Guilfoyle. But we know they've wanted to speak to her for some time, and they finally secured some FaceTime, hours of it, earlier this week.
And very briefly, Scott, before we let you go, I remember weeks ago talking to you, and you reported that the committee had hoped to start hearings in April. It is now April 20th. What's the latest? What are you hearing about a time frame here?
If you keep your eyes focused, you'll see the goalposts just move and move and move on you.
Right.
The latest estimate is May, possibly June. But Elaine, there's a firm deadline. They've got to finish their work before the midterm elections, and perhaps with some wiggle room between now and then. So the firm deadline is likely end of summer, very early fall, which means hearings have to happen in the coming weeks.
All right, Scott McFarland. Scott, thank you very much.